Hey everyone, this is Dave Sheehan here. I'm the founder of Go Vegan Grow, and I want to welcome you to this week's the Go Vegan Grow interview, where we interview experts and athletes and just general people just like you who either are moving towards a vegan lifestyle or are already vegan, some for a long time, some are new vegans, and their reasons and about saving the planet for themselves, their health, for animals, and all the different reasons so that we can help to educate you and motivate you and inspire you in adopting a plant-based lifestyle. Or maybe you already are a plant-based vegan and you're looking to learn new tools, new strategies, new ways of eating, new ideas, or just to expand your education. So, that's what this show is all about. This is why I started it. As I've shared before, I'm vegan since January 1st, 2012, and especially watching my son raise vegan, and he's nearly 11 now, which will be very apt to this particular show. Watching him, and from what I learned, what I watched, from seeing people, it made such an impact on me, and that's why I'm so passionate now about sharing my experience, the experience of clients, the experience of my son, the experience of people I've met and seen, to hopefully impact you to make a positive difference. Because if we make a positive difference in your life, then you're going to naturally make a positive impact in other people's lives, because people see the impact veganism will have on you. And then together we're all having a big impact in the world. Because like I said, we can save ourselves, save animals, save the planet. And it's a very important time. And what I love is that the whole plant-based movement, the vegan movement, is gathering pace all the time. So like I said, I mentioned about my son, and he's nearly 11. He's vegan since birth. And this is particularly relevant for this particular edition of the Go Vegan Grow interview, because I have the pleasure of having Glauce Lucas live from Dublin on. And she is the founder of All About Vegan Food, but also importantly, she's an expert in raising children vegan, having raised her own child vegan since birth. So Glauce, just want to welcome you to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to come on and speak to me and share your life and share your information with our followers.
Hi, hello everybody. Hello Dave. It's a pleasure to be here. Hope we can inspire people a little bit and share. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but yeah, I have my own experience to share, and that's what I've been doing, especially this year, just talking to people about it, and it's been great. So hopefully we can help families and people thinking about having children, how good, how positive it is to raise our children vegan.
Exactly, and I forgot to say as well, Glauce speaks all over the world. She's done seminars, in many different places, and she even just shared to me just before she's speaking in Luxembourg this year as well, which is where I worked for 8 months. So that's very exciting for her. And like myself, she's very passionate about helping people. So we're going to share a lot of great stuff. Take notes, ask questions as well. There's a chat box on the right hand side of the live stream video. So put any questions in, and I'll pick them up during and ask them at relevant times. So Glauce, what I want to start with is, as we do with every interviewee, we start with your life from the start. And most people weren't raised vegan like your son and like my son. So pre going vegan, leading up to going vegan, and what your reasons were, what was inspiring you and making you think that way, and then from then on up to this point, because like we shared, you've been vegan for quite a long time actually. So if you can just go through that kind of journey and share that with people, it'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Brazilian, and I lived most of my life in Brazil, in my hometown. It's called Belo Horizonte, and I was raised eating meat. My parents were quite strong about that. I never was very into meat, to be honest, but it's a very cultural thing in Brazil. We are a country that consumes loads of meat, so that's the way I was raised. So my first contact with veganism was when I was 22. Actually, it was through the hardcore punk scene. That was a very strong movement in Brazil. It's still very strong there, the alternative scene and bands. And so it was the end of the 90s, and the movement was quite strong in the United States as well. So there were many bands actually singing about veganism, about animal rights. And I started going to shows, and my ex-boyfriend back then, he was already vegan. So it was through him that I started to get interested. I was more curious, because I had the personal idea that I didn't want to eat meat, but I didn't have proper reasons to stop. And in that case, in the hardcore scene, it's more like animal rights oriented. So it's all about the ethical behind not consuming animal products. So that was my first contact. It was a really strong one. I went straight to watching Earthlings, and then there were a lot of fanzines back then that we could read, mostly in English, but even in Brazil, people were publishing things in Portuguese as well. And there was very common, especially in São Paulo, because São Paulo is the biggest city in Brazil, to have those festivals, 2 days of music, and in between people would talk, and most of those talks back then were connected to social issues, political issues, and animal rights as well. So those were the three pillars of the talks, and they would serve in the end of each night vegan food for free, to show people that it's possible to eat vegan, healthy, good food. And so that was like a way to stimulate people to get to know more about the food. And I was going to these festivals very frequently. So it was like reading, watching documentaries, talking to people, eating the food. So I just got to the point that I was like, okay, I just can't keep doing that. So in October of 1997, so I was 22, I just decided, okay, I'm stopping everything. I didn't went vegetarian first. I went from eating everything to vegan.
So just cold turkey overnight.
Yes, it was like that. I don't know if I would do that again, especially in Brazil. If you think Brazil, almost 20 years ago, we didn't have many alternatives in terms of products. I would say in terms of daily meals, we were fine because we have the strong side of the meat, but we consume beans and greens very often as well. So the rice and beans combination is part of our daily meal.
In some ways, actually, it was nearly a good thing. You know, the one thing about veganism these days that I find, you know, you have a lot of junk food vegans who are mainly just consuming processed foods and junk food, which, you know, it's grand as a transition, but shouldn't be as a lifestyle. Whereas, as you said back then, especially in Brazil and a very meat-based country, there was very little, if any, vegan created products, fake meat, so you did have to eat real food. So it actually was nearly a positive.
Yeah, the only thing that I think like it would like that I missed it back then more than anything, it was more like the vegetable milks, because we didn't have them.
Yeah, true.
First soy milk that came to the market came in like in the 2000s, so I was vegan for 4 or 5 years when I first had like a proper vegetable milk. We just had that powder soy milk, like that was tasted awful, so I wasn't actually drinking it. But as I said, like, yeah, it's really bad. But in terms of fruits and vegetables, we are like very rich. It's not that positive in the terms of GMO is very strong in Brazil because of Monsanto. Monsanto is very strong in South America. So the crops, especially over the years, right now when I go to Brazil, it's very rare to find organic food, so non-genetically modified vegetables and fruits. You have to go to small farms or to organic fairs, and this is still considered like a luxury. So the prices are quite high. It's not like here that you can find more options in this. But back then, we still had like people growing vegetables at home, fruits, my parents, my grandmother. So I could actually like replace the meat and the dairy quite well. To be very honest, I wasn't concerned about my health back then. I was young.
Yeah.
My motivation was animal rights. So that was just the decision came like that. So I was eating quite bad for the weekends and traveling. And then, to be honest, it was just when I was already living in Europe, so around 7, 8 years ago, that I started actually thinking more about the health side and try to balance my food, my meals. And that got stronger when we decided to have a child. So before, like 2 years before actually getting pregnant, with me and my ex-husband, we actually changed like very radically the way we were eating, especially because I think the first year in Europe, it was all about the processed foods because we didn't have them in Brazil.
Yeah, naturally.
So I just wanted to try cheese and burgers and sauces, like everything that I could find vegan. And then yes, and then as I said, like a few years, like, so my son now is 4, so around 6 years ago, we actually started eating more healthy and actually taking care of that side, which was great. because as a consequence, I had a really calm, healthy pregnancy.
Yeah.
And birth. Yes, and I breastfed my son for 2 years.
Great.
So,
excellent.
Yeah. So
what you're saying is quite, I've found, with myself and with other people, again, it's quite typical that, there seems to be one reason people adopt this lifestyle. Like for you, it was animal rights, the planet and your own health even didn't really matter that much. Like for me, because I've always been to sport and sports performance has been so important. It was when I tried it out more or less 90% vegan for 6 months, and my performance and my training and my results went through the roof. That was enough for me with a little bit of health. But over the years now, it's become very much now about the animals, very much about the planet, and very much about health as a whole. So I think you end up becoming that it's all three become nearly equally important.
Yeah, I think like one thing that I find important, like to show people to like even like to the website or even talking to people, is that we never know everything. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm vegan now and so I know everything, I don't need to worry, I don't need to think, I don't need to rethink. And yes, you do. You learn every day, and there are more and more research in the health side, in the environmental side. So you just get to know the pieces by every day, every year, every month, every day you learn something, and then you can interact with that and adjust to your life and make things better. I think it's all about making life better for everybody and try to protect our planet that we're just destroying.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially the last couple of decades, the damage that's being done to the planet from the previous 50, 60 years is really starting to show. And it is great to see that there are some changes being made. And what I feel it's really powerful, just even in the whole plant-based movement anyway, as well as the whole, obviously, planet and animals, is like social media, because obviously everything before was controlled by the media, what we heard, what we were taught, our conditioning, our brainwashing and all, whereas now, so far they haven't found a way of stopping social media. So people are actually getting to see the truth, see videos, see blogs, see websites, see videos, see documentaries, see just, and people are really starting to wake up. And I think that's why in the last 12 to 24 months, actually on a global scale, in most countries, veganism is really starting to improve, and it's all awareness.
Yes, it is. I find very good that like we can actually have more access. As I said, like when I became vegan those 20 years ago, everything was very limited. It was good that Earthlings was already there, but I find like Earthlings a great documentary, but not, I wouldn't say that everybody would be able to watch it.
No, definitely not.
Yeah,
some can't watch it.
Exactly. So I think it's lovely. It's great to have like different aspects as well of veganism. So we can't expect that everybody will go vegan for animal rights. That won't happen. So although I think people should get to that point eventually, to understand that we shouldn't use the animals, that they are not ours, and they are live creatures as ourselves. I can understand that's not the point that some people will get like as a first reason to go vegan. So whatever make them think and rethink what they're doing and stop, for me, it's good enough.
Yeah. What I think is, and again, it's even from my own experience, because I was quite ignorant to the whole thing up to, I suppose, definitely up to when my son was born, because my wife was vegan about 2 years before that and veggie before that her whole life pretty much. I thought it was pretty much just a cult. When she first went vegan about 12 years ago, I thought this is just another fad. And she was so passionate, which most vegans are. I thought, oh my God, this is so cult-like. It's so like religion. It's so like all these kind of things. And I think when you do wake up and get the consciousness of the reality of what happens to animals and everything else, that you start to really open up to seeing everything. And it's like for me, when I look back and think of the way I used to eat and my own thinking and consciousness of meat and all that, and the disconnect between what was on my plate to the fact these animals are in the field and then what happens in between, you just become so much more aware of it and open to it. But you just have to take that first step to, just go vegan or go plant-based or move that direction. And I think it just opens your mind up completely.
Yeah, that's it. I think like everything that people can do to try to get to be more informed and to rethink what's in our plates, it's a positive step, it's a good step, and eventually I think people will go not just plant-based but vegan in like a complete lifestyle and just embrace everything that's connected to being vegan.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's moving faster and faster, which is, you know, it's pretty amazing. Like myself and Glauce both spoke at VegFest Bristol recently, and I spoke at Brighton in, when was that, February or March?
Yeah, February.
Thousands and thousands. I think it was 14,000 went to Bristol in total over 2 days. Like London is on in October. They're expecting, I think, something like 15 to 20,000. It's growing and growing, growing again because of the awareness. You know, and this is why, you know, I'm passionate about running these type of shows and running my channel and my Facebook and everything. Glauce is the same with videos and her website and blog posts. And she speaks at loads of events every time she gets a chance that she goes and speak, because again, being passionate. And it's just what happens. You know, again, when you wake up your mind and open it up, you do want to share, and you do have an obligation to as well. The only thing I'd stress is it's important how you do it. Make sure, can you educate, you focus on raising awareness. You don't try ram it down people's throat, because remember, you were in their position at one time, unless you were raised vegan from birth, which again is very few people. Glauce, you know, you spoke there about, you know, got to the point where couldn't eat meat anymore overnight. Then you went cold turkey, you went vegan, which was fantastic, and you had your difficulties at the time in terms of the food you could source. So there's always certain foods you could eat. And then you touched on how deciding to have a child made such a huge difference on you, and then you breastfed for 2 years, which is fantastic. Over the last, you know, like that 4 years, your son is 4 years old. You know, tell us a little bit about any of the challenges you've had raising a vegan, or even just advice for wannabe parents who want to have a child and raise them vegan, or maybe right now they're trying to and it's difficult, or they haven't tried yet but it's something they'd like to.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been stressing a lot in my talk and that was the reason that we created the Vegan Families page in the website as well, is that because me and my ex-husband were both vegan, it was very obvious, very clear that we would raise our child or our children vegan. But when that actually happens and you actually have to face what I think it's like the main thing that you face is the social aspect of that. And that's with veganism as well. One thing that I see people coming to me and saying, like, I don't find the food itself hard, I find the socializing hard, the pressure from family, friends, or eating out. And that's what I can see with like raising my son vegan as well. I have no problems with what he's eating, how I balance his food, making sure that he's getting everything he needs. But the amount of questions you get, the amount of people doubting that you're actually doing something that is good,
yeah,
that pressure, that's the one that I find harder. And that's what I get from most of the talks, is people concerned about how to deal with the pressure and social events and school and those, and then the kid getting exposed to non-vegan food. So as I said, my son, he'll be 5 in January, so it's 4.5. When they are babies and when they are small, it's easy. You just give them the food, they eat, that's it. You say you can't eat that, end of story. And that actually brings us to something that for me it's been the funniest, or I would say funny because it has to be funny, part of the questions I get is like, I always get that, and the people from the talks, they say that they get that as well. People saying that we are imposing our choice, our decision of being vegan to our children. And I'm like, well, that's what parents do about everything.
Yeah.
We choose them for them until they are able to choose. That's parenthood. That's how it goes. So people, like, I don't know why people disconnect like veganism from that role, parenthood, but that's very common. But what I realize in my case specifically is that my son, he has a very strong personality and he questions a lot. So it got to a point recently that me saying that's not vegan, it has cow's milk, it's not enough. Because I would say that and say, you can't eat it. And then he started saying, but I want to try, and things like that. So me and my ex-husband, we got to a point that we want a conversation. We want him to understand why he's not eating, instead of being obliged to not, like, like imposed like that.
Yeah.
So it's being like a dialogue already. Of course, there are the limitations of his age. He never tried meat. He doesn't want to try meat. I find meat easy to explain to a child because they are very, the empathy they have with animals is very strong from, I think, basically every child.
Yeah, definitely.
It's because when they eat the meat, they don't connect to the animal, because once that connection is made, usually they refuse the meat.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want, but I find it like, it's mostly like the treats, ice cream, chocolates, cakes, especially social occasions that sometimes he was like, I would like to try. So in the last 8 months, 7 months, he tried twice. That were 2 occasions when he said, I still want to try.
Yeah.
And what made me happy as a parent and as a person is like, he actually, it was like one ice cream, he gave one lick and he said, so you said that has cow's milk? Yes, it does. So I don't want it because the cow's milk is not for us.
Very good.
So that's for me, like, he's quite young and he's starting to understand the reason. So that's how I want to raise him for life, to understand, making his choices consciously. But it is hard. You get questioned all the time. I've been to the radio here in Dublin. I've been to the TV recently, and they always look for a fight. They always look to question. It's never to support you. It's never to show, look, she's doing it well, and her son is healthy and he's thriving, and he's just like as any other kid, but he doesn't disrespect the animals. And one thing, especially for the TV show, it was on RTE. People in Ireland will know it's like a big channel, the biggest public channel here in Ireland. And the call for the show was, aren't vegan parents selfish?
Yeah.
And then, like, when I saw that, it was like, we were in the last part of the show, so I had quite time to think about it and to see that call on the screen. And that was like, my only thought is like, we are the opposite of selfish. We are actually teaching our children to think about the rest of the world, to think about the other living beings, just not about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the opposite of being selfish.
Yeah, it's like even the things they say about all the deficiencies that the kids will have, and they'll be so unhealthy and they'll be sick all the time. And the kid in front of them is showing none of these symptoms, yet they keep saying they're going to happen. And then you see all the other kids and they're always sick. It's like, that was a big wake-up call for me watching Max, that I was scared of how sick he was going to get when he was vegan from birth. But in the first year or two, I think it was 3 when he got his first cold, yet every other kid is sick all the time and in hospital all the time. And even myself, I was in hospital quite a lot in my first few years, so this is something that woke me up. But again, it's the consciousness, is to allow yourself to be open to see that. When it's like those people saying that about your son, it was obvious that wasn't true in that situation, but you still want to believe it. I suppose it maybe part of it is the ignorance and closed-minded, but also part of it is you've awoken in them, guilt. You've awoken in them a realization that they're doing something wrong, and they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, I find like it's very hard, because you're talking about like raising children. Like, people are very sensitive about that. I am as well. I know when people come to me saying how I should be raising my child, no matter what's the topic, I get very sensitive. But I remember like one thing that one question that I got from the radio, that's I think what people have to realize. The presenter, he asked, we said something about it was more like the healthy aspect of like the children, vegan children, and I said that it is possible and it is easy to have vegan children and then to raise them vegan, like in a healthy way. And then he asked me, like, so you're saying that children that eat meat, they are not healthy? I said, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it's possible to be healthy in different diets. If like we are considering just the diet, just the dietary aspect of like that. So I think people get very, very like defensive, and they it seems that they have to attack to defend themselves.
And
I
like, think that happens very much in veganism.
Yes, in general, yes. But I think like it's up to us as well to be very calm, very positive, very supportive when we're talking to people without imposing, just explaining, just sharing experience. And that's why I think my talks are being good, because I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a health expert. I'm just sharing my experience, and it's a very positive one.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Again, that's something I always stress too, that it's about raising awareness, like awareness and education. Don't hammer it down their throat, because yourself, even as a kid or an adult, if someone starts screaming at you, roaring at you, or just being, over the top with you, you close down. You do not listen. You're thinking about your response as opposed to actually listening to the words they're saying. So it's very important to share and it where needed, because some people will not listen to you, whether they're too close to you as a family member, a friend, or whatever. Share third-party information with them. Send them to a documentary, a website, another person, and then more likely to listen to them. But just take them a step further to more consciousness. That's basically what it boils down to.
Yes, and especially I think like we have to talk to people that are not vegan yet. This is one thing that I find great about the festivals, especially in the UK, the amount of people that go that are not vegan, that are not vegetarian. Because like
Yeah.
when I look back, like 10 years ago, we were basically talking to each others. The only people that would listen to vegan people would be like other vegan people. And I
Yeah.
would be like, what's the point? You're already vegan. So
Convincing the ones who don't need it.
exactly. So I'm very like happy like when going to the festivals and talking, the amount of people there that are not like they're just interested, they are just curious, they're just open. So that's I think where we can cause more impact, and that's where it's more important to be like very positive and very, I'm here to talk, you're here to listen, it's a conversation, that's my choice, here's my reasons. Hopefully we can inspire you. I think it's more about inspire and just make people rethink, because I think rethink your habits are it's just a very hard decision. And food is a very, we have like a very strong roots in how we eat. So changing that is not easy. It seems like easy, but it's not. I would never say it's easy. It gets easy when you make the decision and you know your reasons. And then once you get through the transition, because the transition is always the hardest part, then you find, I remember like some people, they ask me like until now, like, oh, but do you miss cheese? Do you miss meat? Like if I was still missing them after 20 years, I probably wouldn't be doing that, anymore, because I would be suffering. And that's not the point.
Exactly.
Get to a point that it doesn't make sense. So for me, those things don't exist. It's the same thing, like I don't smoke, so I don't care about cigarettes.
Yeah.
Because I don't think about it, and I use it to smoke. I stop it, and that's the decision, and that's it. The same for drinking. I don't drink. I use it to drink. I stop it, so I don't think about that anymore. Like, oh, if I was drinking, if I would get drunk, it's just not part of my life.
Yeah, exactly. This is where the whole change in habits comes in. If you do something for a prolonged period of time, especially 30 days or more, it becomes a habit, it becomes more natural. You've changed your taste buds, you've changed the way your mind thinks about that particular substance or food, and it does become easier. And again, as we've said a few times, it's consciousness. You become conscious of what you want to do when you feel the benefits, and why would you do anything else? Just to touch back on what you were saying about with your son and the asking questions, and that's definitely, I'd say, a huge struggle for some people, and how to combat it, how to deal with it. And it's like with us with Max. I think he was about 5, maybe 6 when he first started asking questions. We've always, like you said about with your son, we've always been very open and engaged. And because again, there's no point just saying you have to do this and they say why, and you just have to. Doesn't make any sense, and you're pretty much guaranteeing when they become probably 14, 15, 16, they are going to go and eat it and try it, because it's like with drinking. When you're told don't drink until you're 18, yeah, you find some way of drinking when you're 15 or 16, that type of way. But he questioned it. We shared information with him, answered his questions, and just shared. And he understood it. He got it. He was probably 5 or 6, so he would have had a bit more understanding than like a 4-year-old, or comprehension. And he just can't understand how people do it now. He actually genuinely can't understand it. He even has information now where he can share his point of view. And I suppose a good thing with a kid is people actually listen to him. So he'll have a good impact on anyone he says something to, like family members, which he does. he's quick now to point out if anyone eating meat, hey, you shouldn't be eating that, or giving him a reason, which is funny, but it's good as well, you know. But it's important things. It's good you touched on that, because I know it's a struggle for some parents. You know, you do a lot of great work, as I said, with speaking at festivals and, you know, helping people and with videos and everything. Tell people a bit about, you know, what inspired you setting up your website and what's on the website and the type of stuff you share on it, because again, it's all about vegan food, but now also you've added the branch on it about raising children vegan as well.
Yes, so I set up like actually the website was born when I moved to Ireland, just as my blog. I just wanted to share with, especially my friends back in Brazil, what I was eating differently, the experiences. We were traveling a lot in Europe, so I was being exposed to a lot of different foods. So that's why it's all about vegan food. The name, I kept the name. It's just because it was mostly about the experience of eating vegan food in different countries and how those countries, what they would offer. And then, so that was in 2008, end of 2008, when we moved here. My ex-husband, he's a web developer, so he just set up the blog and said, like, go for it. And then I was just writing, but back then I started writing a lot of like articles for other websites. So I wrote to a vegetarian magazine in Brazil, a few articles, a magazine in Germany, and then tofu that's in Canada. And then I started contributing for like a website from, where was it in America? I forgot where the girl was based. So I was doing all this freelance. Sometimes I paid one, sometimes free. And then when I finished my master's here in journalism, my son was born, so I didn't want to work full time. I wanted to be with him at least for the first year. And we moved to Italy back then, so we were in Rome for a year and a half. So I was doing all this writing and getting frustrated sometimes, especially because you write a lot for free and stuff like that. So my ex-husband back then, he said, like, okay, if you're writing mostly for free, do it for yourself instead of doing for other people. I can like just transform your blog in a proper website, and then you do more proper articles, not just like a blog style of content. I was like, yeah, that's great. So that's how the idea of the website was born. And I wanted to do interviews because I was doing interviews for the other websites, and that's I love doing the interviews. That's my favorite part up to today. So and I don't cook that much, so I was like, yes, I wouldn't be sharing recipes that much because I'm not like an expert in the kitchen. I cook very basically, especially like in my daily life. So what I did, I started asking people like to contribute here and then like guest posts and things like that. And then the website was taking shape, and it was like that from 2000, the beginning of 2012 until last year. So we just like shaped it. So it has recipes, it has reviews, product reviews, restaurant reviews, and book reviews, and it has the interviews. So I still do all the interviews. That's the part that I take care of myself. And the reviews we share with contributors. The good thing, I always get people to contribute. Today I have 7 people contributing for the website. Most of them with recipes, some with restaurant reviews. Some people contact me saying like, oh, I was traveling to Thailand. Can I write my experience and you publish it? Yeah, sure. So that's all. But I always have at least 5 people like writing and helping me with the content. I do the social media. That's my professional side. I always worked with digital marketing and journalism, online content and social media. So I just do it to myself as well. So All About Vegan Food has a good presence in terms of social media as well. And I do it myself. And then, as I said, like when Enrico was 1 year and something, we came back to Ireland. And then when I started realizing, reading other websites and talking to people, that there was actually a space for more information regarding families. And because I could share my own experience as well, I say, okay, I'll start writing myself. And then we start to get more people involved. And that's it. We have some Q&A section. And then sometimes families just share one experience, one article. Like I got like a family that they went, I think it's to Singapore. She said, like, I want to write about that, just traveling with the family, eating vegan. So I'm very open to the content and how people want to be part. And one good thing that happened this year, like Ireland is becoming very strong and it's moving very well in terms of people going vegan and people connected. So there is a group on Facebook that's Vegan Families in Ireland.
Oh, very good.
And that's a very active group. So that's been a really good space to myself as well, to learn, to share, and to get tips for the website. And it's important to me to connect more with like local people and to get like the website is global. My biggest audience is still United States and UK, but Ireland is becoming like a really big one. And I want to get more connected to Ireland because I think that's where I live. So I can go to people, I can go to events, I can support more the families here as well. So it's that group is being very good, but the website will be always global, and I will always like get people writing for me from different parts of the world, which is brilliant as well, because I think culturally people have like very different experiences towards veganism and raising children. So I want to keep the website global, but it's nice to focus a little bit in Ireland because that's where I am. And this year, so since the end of last year, this year especially, the main focus is being the vegan family page, and it's being my talks about raising children vegan from birth. So that's the main focus for this year for the website anyway.
Excellent. Again, it's because it comes again from your experience and the fact you're passionate about it. Because obviously your son is so precious to you, and the fact you're doing something that's so positive for him and for his future generations, because it's naturally going to lead on. You're making a big imprint in the world and having a big effect. And from you sharing your experience, you can impact so many other families. So, it's really great that you're doing that. And, that group, I can imagine the impact that must be having. And it's going to make a huge difference to you and the impact you're going to have in Ireland itself. You could become the expert in Ireland, the one who made the biggest impact, especially on the family element of it, without a doubt, because it is growing. It's slower than the UK, but Ireland typically is like that. It tends to be a bit slower than the UK, especially. It's kind of like US, UK, Ireland. That's typically what I've seen over the years, and the way it grabs new ideas, new thinking. But no, that's great work. And Glauce, share people again, what's the URL for the website? I'm going to put it below in the description anyway.
It's all about veganfood.com, so pretty easy, pretty straight.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, easy to remember. And it's the same, it's all about vegan food on Facebook and all about vegan food on Instagram. And just Twitter, it's about vegan food, short one. But I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm usually like really quick to answer to people, to get back to people. We get questions for all over the world. Sometimes it's just like tips about where to eat, and sometimes it's tips like how to feed my child. So it's usually me answering everything, as I said, but it's because it is my passion. It is like something that I will always find time to dedicate my time. It's just about trying to help people, to inspire people a little bit more, to share my experience. And one thing that I found very important as well to highlight to people is that sometimes you have like your mind set up before you have a child, or even during the pregnancy. And then when you actually live in that experience, you might change your mind. I remember like when I was pregnant, I was very close in mind about like, oh, my son will never eat something that's not vegan. I will never let him eat. And then now I'm seeing that I prefer to explain him and to talk to him. And if he licks an ice cream that's not vegan, but he's making a decision, he's thinking about it, it's more important than just me saying no. Yeah, so definitely. I find like, sometimes like I find important to say that I don't have all the answers, and I know I will still face a lot of challenges and questions and take decisions, but I think it's important like just to be very secure about your information, to connect to people, to talk to people, and then and show the world that like we're doing it. We're not the first ones, we're not the only ones. So many people are doing, and we are doing it right. Our kids are healthy, our kids are conscious, and mostly they are being raised. Our generation is being really good on being more open to conversations about everything and giving people choices. So they will make like a conscious decision. When I think most of our kids will be vegan for life.
Yeah,
because the way we are talking and explaining, educating, I think education is a big part of that.
Yeah, again, I think that's definitely the key. That's why for parents, you know, like we've shared it, we do. It's important for parents who are listening or want to be parents, just share, grow their awareness, educate them, answer the questions. Don't shy away from it. If you don't know an answer, find out the answer, get someone to speak to them, whatever it might be. But focus again on education and awareness. Glauce, it's been amazing having you on to share some great information. You're doing amazing, amazing work. You know, I love the new angle of focus on kids and families, because it is such an important area, especially as the whole plant-based movement grows. And you know, you're very busy, you're doing a lot, your days are jam-packed, as we spoke about before coming on live. And I just want to thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to come on.
Oh, thank you, Dave, for giving me the opportunity. It was really lovely to meet you in Bristol. I'm pretty sure we'll like meet again in some other festival talking. And yes, I think, like as you said, like it is, children, they are the future. They are the future of the planet. We might not see the world going vegan, but I would love them to see the next generation, to see them actually, to see the world going vegan. And that's how we will save the planet. So that's the main focus right now. And I think, like, I invite everyone, like if people, like if you have like anything to share, to ask, just come to us, just share with us your experience. As I think, like, sharing is caring, as they say here, and that's how we help each other, and we get things, the veganism is stronger in a very positive way. So that's the main goal, is just keep sharing positive experiences.
Exactly. Excellent. Great stuff. So guys, that's a wrap for today. That's the Go Vegan Grow interview for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sure you've enjoyed it. If you happen to have any questions from now on, you know, after the show ends, because I know myself, a lot of time questions come to mind when the things are over. Be sure to send message on social media or via YouTube message or email or whatever method you want. You know, we're all over social media too. So just make sure to contact us, Instagram, the whole lot. And just make sure keep tuning in every single week. Listen to these great people, what they have to share, answering your questions, educating you, raising your awareness, and also, you know, even suggest people you'd like to have us get on, and we'll get them on as well. And just remember, whatever your reason, go vegan, grow, save the animals, save yourself, save the planet. Talk to you next week. Take care.